One of the things that absolutely just kills me and is extremely annoying to me is these ads that are up here at the top of my inbox, and they're called web clicks, and you can click through them. And if you don't want to hear about Lady Gaga's message to the Senate while you're doing a presentation or your email or whatever, then you might find this stuff to be quite distracting. You can actually make the web clips go away, and when you head over to the settings link inside of your Gmail account, and I know for a fact that this applies to non-apps versions, you can click on the web links tab and either customize your web links if you like, a ticker of information across the top of your inbox, or you can just make them go away entirely. And I'm going to make them go away entirely. And it doesn't look like there's a save button on that, so hopefully they'll actually be gone. And so now my web clips are gone. I just find it sort of problematic to see the web clips up top there. There are, however, going to be sponsored links on the right side of your email page, which I find to be. I'm looking at an email right now, and I see these two different sponsored links. I find these to be a lot less intrusive. It's not in my normal field of vision, although I have from time to time clicked on these links. You can't necessarily make the sponsored links go away, but they are, not jumping out in your face. You also, for those of you who are already familiar with Gmail, you may be aware that these sponsored links are based upon the content of your message. So if Brian Sawyer were to write me a message, you don't need to do it right now, about sports cars, then the sponsored links would give me advertisements that might relate to cars or to sports or to sports cars or something like that. There's a big hubbub associated with this when Gmail came out, wondering like what is the significance of Gmail scanning your emails and giving you targeted ads. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in our next section, which will talk about privacy in greater detail. So just a couple little things about advertisements. Heading back over to the settings, there's another point that I want to make to you. There's a whole bunch of really interesting settings here. It's actually kind of ironic how the settings for dealing with individual Gmail accounts are so much more elaborate than the settings that you see when you're looking at the Google Apps account. There's a few things I want to draw your attention to. The first is this fourth item down here, browser connection. You have the ability to always use HTTPS. And so I'm going to check that radio button. And you'll notice up at the top, actually I scroll down to the bottom of the page where I can save changes. Up at the top, there's very frequently, depending on your browser, a little padlock or something that tells you whether the connection that you're using is secure. And there's not a padlock here right now. When I click that radio button, which is browser connection, always use HTTPS. What that will do when I click on Save Changes is, let's see, let me reload here. Now I have my little padlock, and I have the expression HTTPS instead of HTTP. And what that means essentially is that the connection between my computer and Google has been encrypted. So if I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I send an email to my Google Apps account, there's no chance that anyone in that coffee shop, unless they're the NSA or something, would have had the ability to watch the traffic emanating from my laptop and intercept and read the text on its way to Google. Now, this is different from saying that the emails themselves have been encrypted. The emails haven't been encrypted, just the connection between you and Google. So it's not stored, your email in this case would not be stored in Google servers in an encrypted form unless Google chose to encrypt it. And certainly once Google passed it, the emails from its servers to whoever it was that you were emailing, externally, that connection would not be encrypted. So it's a very specific instance of increasing your security. Nowadays, people's browsers are fast and their connections are usually pretty fast too. So I always turn it on, just to have it on, because I don't feel like the only reason why you might not turn it on is if you had an old browser and you were using um, a dial-up connection and you were concerned that the added bandwidth that was necessary for making those types of secure connections would create a performance problem for you. But I think that for most cases that's not really a problem these days. So that was another little tip. And for my final tip, I want to mention another one of the settings that, if you've been watching so far, you'll know that I'm particularly fond of, which is keyboard shortcuts. And if I click on keyboard shortcuts on, then let me make sure that I've saved my changes here. Then what'll happen is, is I have the ability to navigate within Gmail without necessarily using my mouse at all. And if you head over to settings and click on Learn More, you can learn about the keyboard shortcuts that Gmail makes available to you. The link is also in my course materials. Basically, one of the I find it incredibly quick and powerful. One of the things that you get is this little triangle here on the side, and this triangle is something that you can move around. If I want to unstar Brian, I can click S, and that'll unstar him. And if I want to, I can click R, or I'm sorry, I can click O, and that will automatically open it, the email that I just received from him. And of course, you can see the targeted ads here on the side. I can click Y to send that email into archive. A lot of people I know don't necessarily use keyboard shortcuts, and I used Gmail for many years before I actually started using the keyboard shortcuts. And I just would really, really, really recommend that you spend a couple of hours, print out the list of shortcuts and activate them, because you could really, really fly inside of Gmail, once you have those live. So other things that I wanted to touch on that we already did was I mentioned the labs. There is a link for the complex search syntax. Like, as you recall, if I type in subject : Brian, it will give me a list of all of the emails I received with Brian in the subject. There's a bunch of different ways you can come up with complex searches. You can create complex searches. The link to that are in the course materials, and that's another area that I'd really recommend you looking into.
There's a question in the chat room regarding archiving your email, like offloading it from Gmail.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible, and this is obviously a big hot button for people. And if I'd known, I would have sort of prepared some walkthroughs on this. But basically, what you want to do is head over to settings, go to forwarding, and pop /IMAP, and pick one of these protocols. As I mentioned earlier, IMAP is the considered to be the more advanced protocol for moving email back and forth from your server to a local, like your computer. If you use Apple Mail or Outlook or something like that, but you can also use POP. This is an area that probably is worth researching if you want to download your emails in bulk. I have my computer configured I can't remember whether I use POP or IMAP, to periodically download all of my Gmail email onto my local drive, just in case Gmail falls from the face of the earth. But this is where you want to start. This is where you want to start if you have concerns like that.
Great. And also, I realize this is a slightly different topic than we covered today, but you can back up all your documents, correct? You can export them all. at once?
Sure. I mean, basic. There's two approaches. I mean, if you I'll just click over here and go to Documents. And I mean, it's like super crazy easy. I've clicked on all items for Google Docs. I can select everything, and then just click on Export. And it's like there's 47 files, and boom, it's going to export absolutely everything. And I can decide whether the a Google Docs file, a Google document, whether I want that as a PDF or as Word or whatever. But it's very easy to zip and download all of your Google Docs files in bulk.
Of course, it says
And
you
one of
can
the things
only
we
do.
talked.
It says you can only do 2 gigabytes at a time, but it doesn't give you any information about how much you're trying to do at the moment.
Sure. And yeah, I mean that I have far less than 2 gigabytes of files in my current account right now, so I can't necessarily show you what would happen. But I mean, it you would just have to break it up if you wanted to. I mean, you could create a complex search that basically says, give me a list of all files that are before a certain date, and then export those, and then do another search of files that are after a certain date, and then export those. And as I mentioned, there are also marketplace Google Apps Marketplace products that plug into Google Apps Premiere and will do bulk downloading and syncing of files.
So, a question from GoToWebinar: does an administrator have the ability to configure settings for all users in one step? Like, for example, enabling IMAP access?
Sure. So there are some settings that administrators have the ability to configure, and the amount of settings depends in large part on the addition of Google Apps that you're using. The Google Apps Premiere, and just as some of you probably know, Google Apps Premiere is going to be the entire subject of next week's class. You have more flexibility, especially in terms of email in regards to archiving and managing, enforcing subtle email policies across your enterprise.